Hey folks, Rob back with the last game for Shmuptember this year, and as always, how could I not do something on C64 shoot-ups without including at least one Jeff Minter game? And this is Voidrunner, 1987 release published by Mastertronic, which is probably a little unusual compared to most of his games being self-published, but, you know, the market's always changed. So Voidrunner is the third of the Gridrunner series, which of course started off on the VIC-20 back in 1982. And this follows on from Matrix, which was released a year later, so in terms of the storyline that was sort of running throughout these, it's basically, after, Gridrunner and Matrix, there were, alien droid attacks on, humanity's power networks. Now, if those being the case, they've discovered the droids retreated and are getting ready for a fairly big strike on Earth. So this time in defensive action, the space fleets have gone to the aliens and take them out in Operation Voidrunner. So we'll dive in, because this, when you think about it, it's much more evolved from the prior games, because you start getting Jeff's psychedelics. So let's dive in, and we can sort of see. This was also released on the +4 and C16, and I've only played a bit of those on emulation, and the big difference is much more colours. Those machines, having 121 colours over the 16 that the 64 palette had. So we start up, we have our little entry message that now we're entry level Yak. First difference is now we've got 4 ships. The basic idea is that you have a squadron, you're indicated by the green ship, and the 3 red ones are just drones. So as with both Gridrunner and Matrix, you are just clearing out enemies. You are clearing out the enemy droids from coming down the screen. First couple of differences is, instead of the old XY zappers, which used to patrol the outer edges, you just have this sort of lone zapper, which is the flashing bar. And yeah, I think the first thing you have to say, it does look busy. So as usual, dead droids form obstacles for the rest that come down, like in Centipede as well, which is what the Gridrunner series was inspired by. And at this first stage, everything feels consistent, like you'd expect. You have a few stylistic changes. Although later on, we'll start getting a few weird little tricks where the game likes to mess with you. But as usual, yeah, then we could see that laser that came down. It's one of these games where you have to just get used to. Oh, curses. Where you just have to get used to how things get thrown at you. Controls are great as always, directional move to move the fleet, fire to shoot. Pretty darn straightforward in that regard. Alright. We're done. First stage done. There's 30 all up. I've made it to about 5. And of course, each level has, Jeff's style of humour for each enemy. So now we're on the llama level. Amid the opening scene with a little physics. Now, and this is where the first big twist comes in. Each level, your squadron of fighters won't just be positioned in the same location. They won't be positioned, flying vertical up the screen. Which I think actually adds a really cool taste, because on later levels, the formation changes completely. The first thing I don't like about this is really the way that zapper bar works. Because you sort of always, compared to what Gridrunner and Matrix had, the zappers, you could sort of time them, and you sort of had an idea of, when they would be getting ready to fire, and so you keep out of their way. But here you don't. You're sort of chasing them. So sort of got to wait and hope that you come at the right point where they blast through. And it does become frustrating when you're especially trying to get used to the game. And it does throw a lot on there. I mean, if you're having a look at the way the levels are set up, you can see, it's my last life already. Usually get a little further in, which I really want to do because At least after... Alright, stage 2's done. Goat. Okay. I do like the tricks in doing those effects. I mean, I presume it's just manipulating characters. So you can see now, our squadron is split up into 4 directions. You know, covering all sort of 4 bases at each other's back. So it makes it interesting in how you have to strategize the weapon. You know, this one now requires a lot more accuracy because you've only got 1 blast in each direction, in each cardinal direction. But so far, I find this stage is a little less frustrating than those first 2, which is a positive thing. So I mean, it has to be said... Oh, curses. It has to be said that this was the last of the 8-bit Grid Runner games. As, of course, this point, 87, 88, he was moving on to the 16-bit platforms, the Amiga and ST. And, of course, from that point beyond, there was Super Grid Runner on those. And then there was Grid Runner Plus, which is for Pocket PC. Oh, here we are. Oh, we did make it to the next stage. Level Sheep. And you can see now, our fleet is split into 2 little pairs that, you know, as you move them to the side, it's moving that split part. And it starts getting trickier. I think Sheep is about as far as I get. Oh, last life here. So, you know, if you get good at the classic pat your head while rubbing your stomach, you might get used to some of these later stages. But you've got to just sort of think laterally, which is one of the things I do like about it. Now, you get that challenge in the confusion of like understanding what's happening on screen, and almost just having to react at such a primal level by comparison. Which is definitely something that, you know, a great shoot-'em-up does. So, I'm not going to even bother. There's quite a lot of characters to enter here. So, all up, oops. Well, I'll start playing another game while I write my conclusions, I guess. So, all up, I dig it for, you know, experimenting with the formula a bit of a static screen shooter. But sometimes, I have to admit, it does get too distracting. You'd have seen that from my play just before. There are just parts where you need to have your lizard brain trained perfectly to respond. I mean, it helps that the gameplay controls are incredibly tight. You know, I don't feel I'm fighting controls in this game. I might be confused at, you know, my spatial orientation because I've lost track of what I should be watching, but I don't feel that I'm fighting with that. I wish the zapper maybe pulsed a little differently to sort of prepare you for when it was going to strike, which would improve the flow a bit and it'll make something a little easier to observe. But, you know, that I guess is how a good challenge is crafted, so I guess you can't really complain too much there. I mean, I'm more of a sucker for Matrix. I think Matrix is the best of the 8-bit games to me, just because it's more just straightforward than this is. But this is definitely worth checking out, even to see how it goes. I mean, to be fair, I think this is the best of the C64 ones. Grid Runner and Matrix are much better played on a VIC-20, which sadly I don't have yet. And, I mean, Grid Runner was ported to a lot of platforms, the original Grid Runner, that is. Matrix was pretty much C64 and VIC-20, if memory serves. And then this was C64 and plus 4 C16. And then, yeah, onto 16-bit Grid Runners. Oh, so close. Almost got through. I just have to survive a fraction of a minute. Oh well, see how we go this time. I'm feeling I might have I might have had my gameplay mojo going, so we'll keep going. Curses. I'm feeling good right now. I mean, I've been a little too intensely focused there. But hey, goat level was always a little more fun or fair. Just because we can. It's because of the extra coverage. Drat. One thing I'm really appreciating is the fact that I can just hold down fire. Most games of this kind, you know, you'd be just repeatedly smashing the fire button, which doesn't do good for your thumbs or the joystick. And here, just being able to hold fire makes it incredibly, just helps with the gameplay. Alright, my nemesis level, sheep. It just sounds so weird, but hey, that's what you expect when you're playing a Minty game. You expect weirdness. Drat. Totally messed that up. Oh, made it. Enter level. Camel. Again, I shouldn't be surprised by half of these that are coming up. Now I can't remember this, so this is going to be intense because I cannot remember what formation my ships will be in. Oh, diagonals. Those red enemies are the worst when they have their lasers that go off. Drat. Oh well, that is definitely game over. And I don't think there's much else I need to really add there. So Voidrunner is intense. Very intense, like most of Jeff's games. You have to get used to it, but hey, I think it's one definitely worth checking out in that regard. I think it's fairly easy to find. I mean, as usual, Jeff's games are free to download, his old stuff. So I will link that in the description if you don't know the archives. And I definitely reckon you should check it out. Thanks again for watching. As usual, I'll get another game every week. The last one for Shmuptember, we'll be back to another random choice affair from my collection as we go through onwards. You can always subscribe for more. Leave a comment or a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And hopefully you'll see a couple of thumbnails, some other choices to pick. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.